Going on, everybody? Bobby Fi. Sorry, we just got news as I was clocking in here live that Darius Garland is ruled out, and that is probably going to affect a few things for me. I'm going to probably get myself some Sexton. We'll start off with the basic stuff. Guys, when you get in, come on in, say hi, ask questions, all that stuff. I know there's stuff popping off in the Discord, but I'm going to give you a feel for what's happening right now. Ricky Rubio is also probably going to pop a little bit. I'm just going to see what I've got for him on minutes. But I think that he's going to end up starting for Garland. For Garland. And that's a kind of an important situation. So Rubio is probably going to play 30-ish minutes. I think he becomes very reasonable at 5,300 and 5,600 respectively. Not a must-have, but that is something I'll get back to when I get my projections updated. So let's talk about the Washington situation. And it's interesting because while they do have, you have no Bradley Beal, you do have a bunch of other guys who sort of are used to splitting minutes and seeing portions of it. I'm going to take some shots with Aaron Holiday. I'm going to take some shots with Raul Neto. The real obvious ones are Dinwiddie and Kuzma. It's going to be hard for me to totally avoid those guys. I know Dinwiddie coming back from an injury, you might say, okay, he only plays 30 minutes. The usage has to go somewhere. Kuzma and Dinwiddie don't mind taking shots when there's nobody else to take shots. The problem I have is I'm a Laker fan here, and I know that Kyle Kuzma can just dud in a game that it seems like everything is made perfectly for him. And it worries me, but I'm still currently planning on playing him in most of my lineups as of right now. I do think KCP is a little bit fishier, another one that will shoot but doesn't create his own shot. I actually kind of like Aaron Holiday a little bit better than him against his old team, but I will have plenty of exposure to both. So that's where I'm at there. I think that whole Washington-Indiana game is just begging to be stacked. I know it's going to be pretty chalky. In basketball, remember, we have to play a little more chalk, even on 10-game slates, than we generally want to. But I think that Brogdon is the guy you can get at lower ownership. And I don't mind. You just hammer them all in. Play 3 or 4 of them. Get a little Miles Turner involved. This is a good spot for everybody. I expect Brogdon and Sabonis to carry a bulk of the weight. And I think that Sabonis, they just don't have a matchup for him here, even though Gafford's improved. And then Harrell might actually match up okay. What's up, Adam? Sorry, we don't have Sheets today. He's got a thing this weekend. What's up, Carnes? How you doing, buddy? But I'm going to go through my ownerships of sort of where I am right now. And then I've got some more fiddling to do because I'm going to have to go through my projections of the Cleveland stuff soon. One way I'm going to get, I don't want to even say different, but we saw this happen about 100 times last year. And basically we're right every single time. Not 100 times, but every game that Embiid was questionable, that was basically a TNT game, he basically just went off in every game, every TNT, every ESPN game. He went off in all those games. He was often questionable. It is weird early in the season that they would play him with a knee thing, but it is Brooklyn, and I think he's got something to prove with the no. I mean, we got the blowout in the first game, so we didn't really get to see it. But I think he's got something to prove, in general, and just F it. This is my team to Ben Simmons and all that. I think Embiid and Durant mixing in the Washington-Indiana game is what I'm looking to do currently. That's where I'm at. We have to see what happens right now. It's going to be really, really interesting to see if Embiid plays, because that's a huge, obviously, thing on this slate. And my thing is, I'm planning on playing Embiid. I currently have about 45% of Embiid right now, because I'm playing a ton of Durant and Harden on DraftKings. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to mix those guys in and mix and match with the Indiana-Washington game. But it's probably going to turn into a little bit of Cleveland and Darius Garland. Colin Sexton love with Darius Garland out. And I think I might even have to get some Ricky Rubio exposure as well. It's just too good of a situation. And Sexton, I think, is too cheap anyway, by the way. I know he had a dud in the first game. With no Garland there, I think they're going to run the offense through he and Rubio. What worries me is that Rubio takes the assist upside away from him. So that's the only thing I'm worried about for Sexton. For Rubio, I don't really think there is a whole bunch of downside for him here. I actually think it's going to end up being closer than people think between Rubio and Dinwiddie in terms of expected fantasy point production tonight. Other guys I really like. So Kuz or Dinwiddie a must. I don't like using the word must when it comes to things because I will always find a way to fade those guys, but I currently have them in both of my lineups on both sides, or sorry, most of my lineups on both sides. I do think Spencer Dinwiddie is a play on both sides. I don't think that there's any. What you can't do is be results oriented, right? Like if he goes out there and shoots 3 for 20 or something like that. But just look at the usage. Look, it's got to go somewhere with Bradley Beal out, and it's hard to see how Dinwiddie doesn't have a decent game here. I currently have Dinwiddie at 50% because I'm trying to get off a little bit of chalk. Some of that's going to go to Rubio. Some of my ownership's going to go to Rubio at that same price. And we have a lot of other underpriced guards. So like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is my highest owned guard on DraftKings currently, along with Fred VanVleet and Dinwiddie. So that's what I'm doing. Kuzma is harder for me to fade. I don't see Kuzma as going out there and just, even if he shoots terribly, like he's going to do other things on the court. He's going to turn the ball over a lot. He's going to miss a lot of shots. And he's not a very good real life player in my opinion, but he's probably it's going to be hard not to play him like 75% tonight for me. I just think he makes too much sense compared to the guy. Let's not get into the Claxton. Oh no, we can get into Claxton. I'm sorry. I was thinking of Sexton. I do like Claxton a little bit. I don't think it's like a smash play of any kind. Like he's a value, but there's other guys that are values. It's not like he has to match up with Embiid. It's not like he can match up with Embiid for one thing. And then there's a foul trouble risk, but I do think he's a good play, and he is a guy I'm using in some of my lineups as a value saver. Other guys I think I may have a little too much of, like Josh Giddey, who I think is a fine play, but we all seen what happens in OKC and between OKC and Houston. So like the game stacks for me are OKC, Houston, Indiana, Washington, and then trying to maybe play an Embiid or Tobias Harris if there's no Embiid with either Durant or Harden. That's going to be the focus and sort of the point of my lineups tonight. That's the way I'm stacking. So pop in any other questions, get in any other thoughts. I'm going to run another projection run and try and get my update on Cleveland here, because I think that Rubio is going to be about as good of a play or pretty close to excuse me. He's probably a little bit behind, but I still think Rubio is not all that far off of Dinwiddie. And I think you can play both of them. The problem is you have a lot of other underpriced guards that probably have a much higher ceiling with guys like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Fred VanVleet, etc. So that's the one thing you can consider for that. It's going to end up being pretty close. I'm going to see my new Cleveland run. Give me 1 second here, guys, and I will get back to the chat. I think you're going to see Sexton look a little better, and I'm very surprised that the projection on Rubio's minutes hasn't gone up more. I think there's room on those minutes that they're projecting for him currently. He played 25 only in the first game. I think there's a chance he plays 30, 32. He's obviously an efficient enough player. I don't think the matchup is that bad with Charlotte. Don't look at any current numbers because it means absolutely zero after one game. But I think that this is a really good matchup actually for them. So I mean, Cleveland's projected to score 110 points plus. Actually, it's 111 right now, but I think it's going to drop. I think Mobley, to answer Carnes' question, I think he's fine. I had him in some of my initial builds and finding less of a need to play him now. I actually kind of like Miles Turner as a pivot. Similar price range on Fanduel. Turner even cheaper on DraftKings. Obviously wasted that center spot, but like on DraftKings on Fanduel, he's power forward. I think that Turner's kind of interesting and he gets me a different exposure to that Indy Washington game, which is going to be a little bit lower owned than the obvious guys, right? So that's one thing I'm looking at doing. But it's all sort of up in the air. Precious is fine at 3,600. I don't think there's any like, oh, we have to play Precious. He's 3,600. That's not like a thing. Like Nicholas Claxton is probably the same or maybe a better play than Precious. They're pretty close, actually. I think I would have them basically pretty close to equal. Both probably a little bit ahead of Favors, but I actually think there's a chance that Favors plays 22 minutes tonight, and he's a much better fantasy point per minute player than people probably think he is. So I'm going to actually make one switch right here and actually change one of my Favors lineups to Precious, because I have a few Favors lineups. I think he's actually a better play with a lower ceiling because of his minutes, but a higher fantasy point per minute option, if that makes sense to you guys. So I do want to get a little bit of Precious, but it's not like a oh my God, Precious is 3,600. We got to play him. I mean, I know it was a blowout in the first game, but he played 18 minutes. I don't have him projected for more than 20. So I have him not even that high. No, I actually had him at 20. So That's the thoughts there. Other than Philly, I do like Maxey, but he's going to fall by the wayside now because of these other value. He's going to have to be a little bit lower than these other guys for me, especially Dinwiddie. But I think that he's still totally in play. Like maybe because people do that, you can use that as a reason why you should be playing him. So I don't mind doing that at all. If I were you guys, I'd go ahead and do it. Let me see, Achua. And then we love that the original game that was going to be the apple of my eye, which it still basically is. But that Houston OKC game just could go completely nuts with these guys at these prices. So that is definitely something I'm looking at doing tonight. All right, pop in any more questions, guys. We'll keep it moving. I hate doing solo ones, you know that, so I love to have the back and forth. I do have some Franz Wagner, especially on Fanduel, and Jalen Suggs on DK. That's how I've got it. I don't have any Jalen Suggs on Fanduel, but I do have him on DK a little bit. I don't think he's as good of a play. I think I might rather speculate on some of these other options than I would on Suggs, but he's not going to shoot, 0 for whatever. What was he last game? He was 3 for 14. I don't expect that to happen all that much. Just there are other guys there. I actually like Cole Anthony on Fanduel as well. He's 4,900. He's the preferred guy for me on Fanduel, but I do think Suggs is definitely in play. I've got him currently at 20% on DraftKings, 23%, excuse me, for my ownership. Kevin Pangos is projected to get some run. I'm not going to play Kevin Pangos. That would, to me, be just the epitome of playing terrible because you see a guy's name pop up. Unless somehow he gets announced in the starting lineup, which he's not because they already announced Rubio. I'm not going to touch anything like that. There's too much other value out there. We can't do that. Anyway, let's keep going. Other guys I own. Actually, guys, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to share my Fanduel builds currently with you guys, and then we'll see, if we get in trouble. But I like to do this. We're true DFS. We're trying to be honest about everything we're doing and trying to say, hey, this is what works. This is why Sheets and I are winning players. This is why Rhodey's a winning player. Here's what we're going to do today, and we're trying to show you guys exactly what we're doing. So let me share my screen real quick and make sure I have the right one. And let's go to, it's going to unfortunately be this one. And we are going to jump over to my DraftKings because otherwise it's going to look very funny. Tell me if you guys can see it over there. It's kind of weird because when I jump back and forth, I'm going to have to see the same screen. I wanted to just take a picture of this window. Is it showing my DraftKings builds and then my Fanduel builds more importantly? Because I don't want to show my DraftKings ones. We've already gotten in trouble with them before. But these are my current Fanduel builds, and let me know if you guys can see them. Just write a yes or whatever. And I'm scrolling through my current builds, and you guys can sort of see exactly what I'm saying and what I'm trying to do with it. Favor's a little different on Fanduel. I find him a little more viable, but again, not playing him a bunch or anything like that. I love Joval tonight, love him, but I don't think I'm going to be able to get to as much of him because I want the Sabonis or I want to spend down in some of those spaces up there. I love Christian Wood. And I want some Embiid exposure. And you can see I got the Turner and currently in one of my 555s right now. So that's what I'm doing on Fanduel. Can you guys see all that? Okay, great. I just want to go through it real quick, and then I'm going to quickly try and get away with this and just before we get in trouble. I can just feel the email coming or in the stream getting shut down. But I do like to be transparent about it all. So that's where my builds are at right now. I'm still got some changes to make, of course. I'm going to stop my share now and just go back to the questions. But that gives you an idea of what I'm doing. What's up to Zetsupo? Who do I like from the OKC? I like Jalen Green on DK. I love Christian Wood. I love Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Don't love, but like Josh Giddey. I'm very high on Fred VanVleet. As you can see, he was in my main build on DK in case it didn't show up over there, but I love Fred VanVleet over there. There's just a lot of good plays. So there's not going to, you could say a lot of things and nothing's going to be wrong because this is what happens early when there's tons of mispricing, right? And it happens late in the season. In the middle of the season, we tend to find our groove unless we have players out, which happens more and more than it used to when I first started playing. But there's mispricings all over the place. So, you have these prices on. I still think Scotty Barnes is a great play. By the way, I don't know if you guys saw. I have him 37% on DraftKings right now. I've got 47% Durant. I have more Harden on FanDuel just because of positioning. Really, that's it. Because I like the small forward and power forward. And then if you're not going to use the value from the Indy Washington game, that's what I would do. But I have Jalen Green in my main build. On DraftKings, I've got a little mini stack with Jalen Green, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Josh Giddey. Actually, it's more than a mini stack. Josh Giddey and Christian Wood. And then I'm playing Dinwiddie and Kuzma in my main lineup. You guys can probably figure out the other pieces. One card tonight with others, with Westbrook and Chris Paul, just because it's way too low owned. No, I think it's a terrible play, Ken. Sorry, just going to be completely honest. True DFS. Ken's a great guy. I think Westbrook and Chris Paul, I think Chris Paul is, sure, he's fine. His route is harder than probably everybody else's route in his price range. I'd rather play Brogdon. I'd rather play Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who's cheaper. I would take Shai Gilgeous-Alexander to outscore him. I would take Fred VanVleet to outscore him. And I don't think Westbrook is viable at all on this particular slate, not even a little bit. There's too many other guys to spend on. Even if Westbrook puts up 50, that's not good enough. That's the way it is. I think Anthony Davis is viable. I think LeBron is viable. This team beat us in the playoffs. Remember, LeBron will take that seriously. I don't think Westbrook is at all viable. They don't know how to use him yet. It's going to take some time for the Lakers to figure it out. So just keep that stuff in mind. Anyway. All right, guys, any other questions? Because I still have some builds to get to, and it's a big slate, and I'm happy to be in Discord and try and answer as much as I can. But remember, I've got a bunch of lineups going, as you guys can see. So I would like to end this show whenever we do get any of the last questions or thoughts in. And tell me if you guys are with me. Is there somebody who – I like LaMelo too, by the way, a little bit. I'm very concerned about LaMelo. Like, I want to just say, like, I think LaMelo is an awesome play every night. Whether Rozier plays, whatever happens, awesome GPP play. When he starts to get really popular, he is not always going to shoot 7 for 9 from 3. And he will often play less than 30 minutes. In 30 minutes, they try to keep him in that range. That's the way James Borrego does it. He's a very good coach for real-life basketball, forget fantasy. But it's going to hurt some of our fantasy sometimes this time. You never there's no such thing, Peter, as having a late night. There's absolutely no such thing as a late night thing. It shouldn't matter what time the games start to you. The only time it's an edge is if you have a huge question mark late in the slate. Never, ever, 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 ever try to play your lineups because of the time they start, unless there's a chance that someone's going to be injured. Or if you can get a late swap onto something, there's just really no way to think like that. It's detrimental, I think, in my opinion. And I think that too many of the other guys in the industry say you love late night. Yeah, you do love it because it gives you pivoting ability. So there's an advantage of a guy being equal. Yeah, maybe you play the guy in the later game. That's about it. And that's really it. I love Michael Porter Jr. I am sadly not getting to as much of him as I'd like. I think it's an awesome kind of pivot off of. It's a little price difference. There's a 600 price gap between he and Kuzma. But you're going to tell me that Michael Porter Jr. can't put up 60 fantasy points? This guy is going to break slates all year long, and he's probably going to remain low owned because you'll see some streaks out of him. I don't know if he'll be low owned for that long. My guess is he becomes an 8K player in a very, very short period of time. But I really do like Michael Porter Jr. So if you can find a way to make that work, get it in. I like it. LBJ, AD, same lineup, makes sense to do in tournaments. No, it doesn't. I completely understand on other slates, and I don't understand why we would attack a good defensive team. There's totally a path for both of them to get there. But I want to play Brogdon and like you play Brogdon and Sabonis, and you save 1,500, and I think they have the same ceiling that LeBron and AD do together. I really do. So I wouldn't be doing that. Kelly Oubre, absolutely 0% chance I'd have one Kelly Oubre lineup. I will not have any Kelly Oubre lineups at all whatsoever. There's no way in the world I'm playing Kelly Oubre on this slate. I think it would be, to be honest, just to put it bluntly, I'm not trying to insult anybody when I say these things. I like to speak very, very bluntly. I don't even know that we have a confirmation, first of all, that we don't even have confirmation that Rozier is out, right? Let's wait till Rozier is out before you even consider doing something like that. He did play more minutes than I thought he would in Kelly Oubre. It is it's not a great matchup, not a bad matchup, probably middle of the road. I would slate it. And he doesn't do anything, but he can score a little bit. That's what and you're going to count on a bad shooter shooting well. I am not a fan of Kelly Oubre at all. On this kind of a slate, there will be plenty of times at 5,500 this would make sense. But even if he gets you 30, you're not happy with it. You're not happy with it. You need more than that these days. You're going to need 6, 7x from everybody, basically, to have a chance. You can probably get away with one guy who doesn't, but you're going to need somebody else to go like 9x then. I just don't see any reason to play Kelly Oubre. All right, guys, that's pretty much all I got for right now. Unless there's any more questions, I will leave this running for a minute, but I am going to edit the rest of my lineups. And I think we're going to have a great season. You know, it always takes a little while to figure it out. I am going to just be completely as blunt as I can, exactly what I'm doing, and that's what we're going to do. Drake, I think you missed the beginning. I love Shea tonight. I absolutely love him. He's one of my favorite plays. Per Doc Rivers, Embiid 50-50 to play. That means I think he's likely to play. Good word though, Adam. Appreciate that. No, that's my opinion. Is look, I'm not. If I had to bet right now, you told me I could make a bet, and I just bet on whether Embiid plays. I would bet that Embiid plays. Would I bet that? I don't know if I still want to put my money on it though, because it does feel weird that we don't know yet. I just get a feeling that he's gonna. I mean, he just does it every time these come up. The only issue is that it's the second game of the year. They blew out their first game. They could sort of just let this one go. No problem to you guys. Always great to hear you guys. Always great to see you guys. Really pumped about the NBA. As you guys know, this is my sweet spot. I've always been extremely successful in my first losing year of any of the three major sports in baseball, unless I can win something in the World Series or in the next showdown slates. Other than that, I've never lost at any other sport, but basketball is my bread and butter. I really can't tell you guys. This is where you want to really be listening to me. You should be listening to me about the other stuff too. I know what I'm doing, but there is no more advantage that I have than in basketball. So, all right, yeah. I want to make that one thing clear. If Embiid plays, Tobias Harris is still very viable. He's just not as the same play that he was, and there's other guys who are better plays, in my opinion, if Embiid does in fact play. Now, could he still put up 50? Sure, he absolutely could. Still makes more sense to me on Fanduel than he does on DraftKings, but I will probably be less on him, and I would love to play Embiid at low ownership tonight. I really would. That's pretty much it. The problem was last year when they were doing this, all these games, Embiid was playing. He had an MVP. He was trying to win the MVP. He was trying to keep his team in first place and get home court throughout the playoffs. They're not at that point yet, but I know Embiid's mentality, and if he plays, I think he goes. The only problem is you have Doc Rivers, who is an idiot. That's basically the nicest way I can put it. Doc Rivers is the most overrated coach in the history of sports. I think he's an awful game coach. Great guy to be the guy's friend. He's like the Dave Roberts of the NBA. Anyway, guys, love y'all. Good luck to everyone tonight. Questions in chat. I'm here for you. Let's crush it. Good luck, everybody.